welcome back. Our last lecture. I want to summarize everything that we review in the past 8 weeks. Show you some questions similar to the one that you're going to have in your exam. So helping to test yourselves. Most important than the exam. I mean, the exam is very important, is the conclusion of the class, is your grade. But for several of you, most of you, this is the first one of several other courses that you're going to take regarding programming. So hopefully in the past weeks, what we review is the foundation of something that you're going to continue exploring. Everything that we have reviewed, arrays, objects, references, loops, recursion, you're going to need that in other classes. Some of you, as I mentioned before, data structures, programming languages, and others. If not, if this is your only class in programming, well, hopefully this one give you enough information, maybe to continue learning by yourselves new things. Now, the final exam is going to focus in the important things that you are going to use from this class in the future. And as mentioned before, the topics that you're going to need in the future, and also the topics that help us to evaluate your understanding of things, is basically talking about arrays. A lot of questions in your exam include arrays. 80% of your final exam, the questions somehow show you arrays or ask you something that is related with arrays. If you ask me, that one, the most important topic that you need to review. Not the only one, the most important one. Connected with arrays, as I mentioned in the past, you can expect questions using arrays, and most of them conditions and loops. I am not going to ask you for a particular loop or for a particular condition. If you need to review only one, if you do not have a lot of time, understanding and being able to use a for loop, understanding and being able to use if conditions, that could be enough. I mean, in several cases, we review that a switch is better than an if, but at the end, you can use the if. A do while or a while could be better than the for, but if at least you know how to use the for, that could be the tool that you can use to solve the problem. Arrays, for loops, if conditions. The second thing, a lot of questions references, and I am talking about this keyword. Hopefully you understand what the keyword is doing, and do you remember that we use that keyword for the arrays, but also to create objects. And when I talk about this, we use this in two different places. Number one, we create references as a local variable, something very simple. But the important use for this is parameters. These methods, like the one that we reviewed yesterday, that receive as a parameter a reference to an array or reference to objects. And in this point, you have reviewed your assignment 5, and your assignment 5 is a lot of methods, and some of them are receiving references to arrays and references to objects. Review this, particularly in those cases that are more interesting, like again, the arrays. The last one, and this is something that is from the second exam, we reviewed in the past, methods. Could be static or not. You know how to create methods, and you know the difference between static and non-static. This is not new, but what we did in your exam is some cases asking you to do a method. So you're going to have this program, and the question is going to be, can you add a method in this particular class that is going to do the following? Kind of one thing in your assignment. In your assignment, you are doing several methods. You are asked to do a class with method A, B, C, D. In your exam, one question, create one method. The important thing for you to remember, besides obviously how to create the body of the method, but the signature is like, should be public, yes, no, should be static, yes, no, return something, so is void or not, and the parameters. And the parameters is something connected with this, because several times we're going to ask you to complete a method or to create a method in your exam that receives as a parameter an array or objects. So my 5-minute picture of the things that you can expect in the exam is something like this. I am not telling you that there is no other questions. There could be more theoretical question, maybe one, but most of the question is around these topics. Points. In your final exam, there are two kinds of questions. Questions that are 5 points, questions that are 10 points. As you can expect, 10 points, open questions, questions that ask you to do some programming from scratch, a box, and you start typing code. Those kind of questions are going to be like 10 points, 10 over 100. And you have the 5-point questions. Those are from multiple choice, true, false, or fill the line. You have a program, and we ask you to give us what is missing in some line. Or we give you 5 options and ask you to select one or more that are correct or that solve a particular problem. Also, 5 points, questions that are going to show you source code, a full program, and as in the past, the question, what is the output of this program? And you have this line to write something. Usually, those programs are going to use print, not println. So the idea is that you give us the output of the program, and usually, not always, but usually the output is going to be one line. It's going to print numbers or letters or both, and we expect you to put the output. So show us that you understand the problem, that you understand what the program is doing without running the program in your environment. As usual, the exam is closed book. You cannot use the book. You cannot browse the internet. You cannot use your programming environment. The only thing that you can use is paper and a pencil. That is allowed. Remember that you need to show your paper to the camera. Remember that you need to do a scan of your desk and your environment. Use as usual. I think this is the 3rd time that you're doing this in an exam, the 6th time, because you do this in an exam and in a lab in the past. The same is happening this week. So you know the process. I am not going to talk more about the process. Show me your environment, show me your paper, closed book, 5 or 10 points, I think you're going to be able to know more or less your performance in the exam. You can notice how many questions for 5 points you are completing correctly, or 10. And we're going to do our best to have your exams graded by the end of the week, probably Saturday. And obviously the grades are going to be posted on Canvas, so you have the opportunity to review your grade and to review your exam. And let us know any question before I publish final grades. Final grades are going to be posted Sunday, midnight Sunday. So probably you're going to look your final grades by Monday, and that's it. Similar with the assignment 5, you're submitting the assignment today. Do not forget to submit. And the graders are going to be working, trying to complete the grading of that also by Friday, Saturday. So as soon as we have the grades, we're going to post an announcement so you know that the grades are there, and you can go review, and any question, let us know. And by Sunday, Monday for you, you're going to have the final grade of this class. Yeah, the exam is a pool of questions. So most of the questions in the pool are new and related with these topics that I mentioned. There is a small percentage that randomly is going to select questions from previous pools. So for some of you, there are going to be 0 questions regarding previous topics, nothing, everything is going to be new. For some of you, maybe 1 question or 2 regarding previous things, like theoretical question, or what is a variable, or something simple like that. My advice in general, these topics that I just mentioned, particularly arrays and references, those are the things that you're going to have most of the questions, and therefore most of the points. I am not sure. The last time that I reviewed yesterday, the grade was there. I mean, the grader was working. So usually when he start grading, hide the column. So maybe right now, maybe the grades are there, but you cannot see the column because he hasn't finished with everybody. So usually there is no grades until we finish reporting all of you. Maybe that is the case. Bonus or extra credit. No extra credits. I mean, I am not planning to do anything. I mentioned this yesterday. Today, the grades on Canvas showed me that at least 3 of you have A+. A lot of you, several of you have A or B. Most of the grades of the class is around that, A's and B's. So at this point, I do not think that any extra credit or any curve or something is going to be needed. I think the performance of the group, all of you, have been good. And my expectation is that you are going to perform well in the final exam. In any case, I am going to review this, as I mentioned, Saturday. By Saturday, Sunday, I expect that the graders complete the grading, including the 5, the 4 assignment, and obviously the exam. And by then, I am going to take a decision. And if I do some curve or whatever, I will let you know. In the same way, if I do nothing about that, I will send you an announcement, and the announcement is going to say what happened with your grades. But at this point, your grade is going to be as described in the syllabus. 50% your exams, you can calculate that. 20%, 25% the labs, you can calculate that, and 25% your assignments. And we did 5 assignments, so each assignment 5%. I think you can do the math, basically. My recommendation, do the maths. Not sure if what Canvas is showing you include all the numbers or not. what I do is download the numbers from Canvas, and Excel is the one that calculates your grades. And from Excel, I publish that Excel in my ASU, that is your final grades for the university, and that's it. Good? Okay, so this is the big picture. Going into the details. As usual, I am going to mention several topics. I am going to give you some examples, but there could be questions about what is a variable, even though I do not mention that here, or questions about the first or second review. My recommendation, go and check the video for the first review. Those are the topics that we cover in the first review. I give you the book references. If you have the book and you want to review the book, those are the things in the book that you need to review. Similar for the second midterm. Those are the topics that we cover, the things that I recommend you to review. As you can notice, here we're talking about loops. For sure, there are going to be loops in the final, not as an individual topic, but as one thing that you need to use in order to solve a problem, like a problem with arrays, right? But the page in the book that you can review. And finally, the last topics that we review, and I didn't put here the reference for the book, but remember, the references are at the end of each lecture. So you can go to lecture 19 or 28, and at the end, I usually put the pages that we're covering in the book. So the new topic, this is basically what I summarize at the beginning of this video. If you need to manage your time, if you want to review the lectures again, the 22 and the 23 regarding arrays, maybe the most important. After that, 24, 25, the videos regarding references, very, very important. And you can finish with the recursion one, searching, and the review. I am not telling you that these ones are not the important ones, but again, if you have a limited amount of time, I am just telling this and this, those four may be the key for your exam. Everything else, somehow we use null here, we use constructors here. So you're watching some of these videos, you are going to notice that the constructor appears there or null appears there. Only if you have no idea about what is the meaning of this, then maybe you need to review the video. In other cases, focus here. Don't worry, I am going to talk about sort today. It's not a big topic. I just put the name there because one exercise that I am going to do today. Don't worry. And searching, I am talking basically about linear search and binary search that we reviewed yesterday. So that's it. It's nothing else. Good. So the topic. Now, I want to talk in the review about two things. I am sure that you want me to put on the screen one question that is similar to the question that you're going to have in your exam. The questions that I am going to show you is questions that are kind of in the category of these 5-point questions. I want to show you a couple of examples, maybe 4 examples that are questions, kind of the questions that we use for the 5 points. So you can have an idea about what are you going to have tomorrow. But for me, the most important is I want to give you an idea about the 10 points questions, the open questions. I am going to show you questions in this category that are a little bit harder than the ones that you're going to find tomorrow. I mean, don't worry. What I am going to ask you to do right now for 10 points is harder than the question that I put for your exam tomorrow. But my goal is 2 things. if the one that I showed you today is hard enough to make you think about the topic, and you can solve this one, well, the ones that you have tomorrow are going to be easier. On the other hand, what I want to show you today, even though it's for the review, for you to prepare for the exam, really my goal is for you to test yourselves and know if you are ready to go for the next courses that you're going to take. Because again, remember, tomorrow you have the exam. The exam is important because it's your grade for this class, but most important than that is you're going to use this in the future. And if you need to review something, if there is something that we didn't cover 100%, if there is something that you need to clarify things, well, maybe you have some weeks before the semester starts and before you take the 200 level classes. Anyway, that is my goal. So I am going to start here just because I prefer to run out of time here, not here. Let's check. The 10-point questions. The key is putting things together. And I want to check not only your knowledge of Java. Right now you are Java programmers. Right now you know Java. We have been working 8 weeks with Java. But this kind of problems is more about your problem solving skills. Understanding a problem like your assignments and split the problem in methods, conditions, loops, variables, arrays, references. Kind of understanding the problem and then choose the tools that you're going to use. And using those tools, put together a solution. My problem. Yesterday we talked about searching, and I showed you 2 algorithms for do searching. I mentioned sorting in the previous slide, and I want to try for you to help me to implement some way to sort an array. I am going to give you an example, and I want to ask you if it is possible to create a program that do this process. I am showing you a picture, an animation that basically is showcasing the process that need to be followed for sorting a particular array. And I have this example also. It's the same. Basically, I put the numbers in one column and I have the animation running in the other column. Let's see. If you have an array, and let's think about this one here, that have information, numbers. They are not in order. Because they are not in order, we cannot use, for instance, binary search, right? Because binary search needs the array to be in a particular order. So something that usually we want to do with an array is to sort the array. Sorting means moving from this one to this one. So I put my input at the top and down what I want to have. Now, there are several ways to do sorting. There are several ways. If I ask you, what can I do to sort this array? I am sure that each of you can suggest one solution, one process, one way to do the movement of the elements in order to have at the end a good result. I want to focus in one particular solution here, because my goal is for you to explain to me how to put this, the solution, in a program using your knowledge. One way to do sorting is the following. Read 2 elements in the array, 2 elements. For instance, these 2, the 6 and the 3. Because we want to have the array in order from the small values to the highest values, read to the 0 and the 1 and put the highest one in the position 1 and the smallest one in the position 0. So if you have something like 6 and 3, what I am asking you to do, what you can ask the computer to do, is to move the 3 first and the 6 after. Only the 0 and the 1, nothing else with the other elements. Then I want you to do exactly the same, but now with the element 1 and the element 2. Exactly the same, 1 and 2. Put the highest value in the position 2 and the smallest one in the position 1. In this example, if I have 6 and 0, I want them to swap. So I want to have something like this. And then the same again, but now with the values in the position 2 and the position 3. I have between those two, the biggest one here. And what is going to happen is this. And I am going to repeat this process, 0 with 1, 1 with 2, 2 with 3, 3 with 4, 4, and so on, until I read all the elements in the array. Following this process, what I am doing is I am going to have the highest value, in this case the 6, at the end of the array. Because basically I was moving the highest to the position most to the right. So at the end, I am sure that the value that is the highest one is at the end of the array. Makes sense? Now, all of this, all of that was used for moving the 6. You notice how the 6 go to the end, doing this switching. When you finish with one pass from the beginning to the end of the array, you do the same again. The same mean the 0 and the 1. If you already have the biggest value in the position 1, do nothing. Like in this case, nothing. And then the 1 with the 2, if you have the highest value in the second position, in the one that is most in the right, do nothing, like in this case. And then compare the 2 and the 3. If you have the highest value in the right part, do nothing. But if you have, like here, the highest value in the left, change. So remember, always we want the highest one in the right. Then we move the 3 and the 4. If the highest is in the right, do nothing. If it's in the left, change. In this case, they are done. And if you notice, basically, we achieve having the 5 go to the end of the array before the 6. So now we have the 6 and the 5 at the end in order. And then do the same, starting with the 0 and the 1, and continue. I didn't put more of these cases, but hopefully with that explanation and the picture, I am clear regarding what I want. At this point, I do not want you to be worried about, hey, this way of doing the short is efficient, or there are better cases. Why are you doing this? Forget about it. This is not the most efficient way to short an array. I agree with that, but I don't care about that right now. This is the easy one to explain to someone. Is the easy one because basically I am doing only one action several times. One action. I am comparing two elements, and if they are not in the correct order, I swap them, and then I move to another pair and another pair and another pair, and two by two, I am moving things, and at the end, I finish with a result that I want. It's not the best way to do sorting, but I really don't care. I am not reviewing sorting. What I want is, with the information that you have, with the knowledge that we have about Java, do you think that we can put what is happening here in a program? Do you think that we can create a program that do these steps? And I hope that the answer is yes. Okay, yeah. So this is problem solving, as I mentioned before. Hopefully you remember the array. I want to ask you what I need to do a program that do what I just explained. Which elements from Java do I need? Let me think about it. Could you agree with me that we need an if condition? Okay. We need an if condition, and I agree with you. We need for loops. And I also agree with you. We need two for loops. The big picture of the solution is for loops. Did you notice that I repeat things several times? If you notice that we need two for loops, because basically what I did was with the first line and the second line, we're going to reach that. But the main thing that I need you to do when you are programming is split the problem in several parts. Do not try to solve the problem all together. It's like, think about what do you need to do first and move forward. In this case, before talking about the loops, let's see what is happening inside of the loops. If we agree that we need a condition, you know that the only thing important in the condition, the only thing important that you need to take care here, thinking about, you agree with me that we need an if. If you agree with me that we need an if, the first problem that you need to solve is, well, this if needs a condition. And what could be the condition here? In some point, I was comparing things. In some point, my description of the problem include a condition. In particular, if you notice, the condition that I was using was something like, well, I have two elements, and if this element, the first one, is greater than the second one, move the element. Somehow, greater than is going to be involved. Okay, you give me the answer. Greater than, and in particular, I am using an array, and I am comparing something in a position I with something in a position I plus 1. If you understand what I am doing there and why I am doing that, we're moving forward. It's like, okay, you are always comparing the 0 with the 1, and then the 1 with the 2, and the 2 with the 3, and so on. So it's like, if I use a variable and you're using I, and I am going to continue doing that, well, you're comparing I, 0, with I plus 1, the 1. And when I is 1, with the 2, and so on. That is what you're doing. That is what I asked you to do. Oh, that is a very good question. This variable I is going to exist in some place. And you tell me that I need a loop. So something that maybe is going to happen is because I want this variable I to change the value. And I just describe that the first value should be 0. Well, that gives me the idea of a for loop. And that for loop is going to start with 0. That is very, very common for arrays. But then I need to define a condition for that for loop. And I am pretty sure that the increment is going to be something like that, right? We are used to that. And this if is going to be inside of this for loop. Now I need to be concerned about what is the condition that is going to stop this for loop. Did you notice that if my array have 5 elements, well, the last thing that I can do is to compare the 4 with the 5. Sorry, if I have 6 elements, I compare the one in the position 4 with the one in the position 5. That is the last one, right? So, because this is going to be always the last one, the value for this variable should be 1 before that the end of the array. Makes sense? Because remember, if you move this I to the last index in the array, when you do I plus 1, you are going to have this out of bound exception, right? You're familiar with that. So what do you think we can do with the condition? Usually, this is your condition, but we do not want the I to be equal to the last value because we do not have another one to compare. We want the last value for I be minus 1, the end of the array. So you put minus 1 there. Problem solving. What I need to do, put a solution. Start with the easy thing, and you can increase the solution in blocks. And then suddenly you're going to have these small problems like you describe in the chat. Wow, wait, we cannot do this, the value to be at the end. Okay, we need to be 1 before. We add minus 1, or we add some condition, or we add something to solve those small problems. Now, I have a for, I have an if. I am missing the body for the if. What do you think I need to put as a body for the if? What I did when the condition was true. Because remember, if the condition was false, if the two numbers are already the biggest one in the right, I did nothing. And that is telling you that this if do not have an else. However, if the greater value is in the left, I swap them. What are the instructions in Java to swap the values, to change the position of the values? Basically, what I want to do, if the second one is the greater, is something like I want to change it, to change them, right? I agree with you. Think about your array, and you're comparing these 5, and you're comparing these 4. And what you want to do is to move the 4 here and the 5 there. So it's like the one in the position I should be the value in the I plus 1, and the I plus 1 should be the one in the I, right? However, what I am showing you is not exactly going to work. That is the idea. These two lines, well, they are the idea if we think about math. But thinking about programming, I have a problem there. A very common problem, and that is the reason because I put those lines there. A common error, a very common error for programmers is to do these two lines to move these values. Someone in the chat noticed the error. After doing this line, what I am going to have in this example, instead of moving 4 and 5 in a different place, well, you need to remember how variables work in programming, in Java. The first line, this one, is going to change this value, and it's going to put here a 4. And after the first line, I am going to have 2 4s, and I just lost the 5, right? It's not a new topic. We're using variables. And if you remember how variables work, you know that I am missing something here. What is the solution? I like the idea, we need a triangle. I mean, again, it's not programming, it's maybe we need another box here. And what I can do is this 5 move to this box. So when I move the 4 here, yes, I am going to have 2 4s, but then I can put the 5 here, and then I switch the places. But I need an additional element, an additional place. Makes sense? Boxes, variables. Okay, I need an extra variable. Good. I create my variables and I put the variable there. Whatever. Outside of the 4, if I do not want to duplicate, it doesn't matter. You know that having the variable, having the box, you can reuse the box whenever you want. So the idea with the box, let's make the box something like that, and then what do you think? That is the triangle that you suggest me in the chat? Makes sense? Looks like this is solving the problem. This is moving forward. This is moving forward. And if you run this program is doing this part. If you run the program and you use this array as an input, what we have in the program is the program that moves the 6 to the end. Because we have this loop with 2 elements, 2 elements, 2 elements, 2 elements, the 6 is going to be at the end with the loop that we have right now. We have the condition, and we have the loop that moves 0 to the end of the array. That is what we have. Yeah, well, we have this part, but we need all of this. What can we do to do this? We did this with the 6. Now we need to do the same with the 5 and the other elements. Next step. Could you agree with me that we need to repeat this? I mean, this 4 was to repeat the condition. I am done with the 6. I am done with one of the values. In this point, it's like, well, now you need to do exactly the same again. And if I need to do exactly the same again, what you are telling me is put another for loop. And if I am going to put another for loop, Well, I need 3 things. I need another condition, I need another variable, and the increment. A equals 0. I'm going to start from the beginning. A could be lower than, I don't know what. Let me change the name because I use the A for the array. A variable P, 0 to the end of the array, because basically I want to repeat my for loop in black and my condition as many times as elements I have in the array. Because basically what is happening with the for loop in black and the if condition is that is moving one element to the position that that element should have at the end. I mean, the biggest element first and then the second biggest and so on. So worst case scenario, I will need to move as many elements as I have. 0 to the length of the array, lower than, that is safe for the out of bound exception, and the plus plus. Nested loops with a condition inside. Only one more thing. Did you notice that the first time the value go to the end, to the position n? The second time for the 5, the value go to n minus 1. And if you continue with the same idea, the next time the value should be in the position n minus 2. I mean, you're moving the highest one to the end, the first time to the end, n, but the next time, just because previously you detect which is the highest value, the next time, the value is not going to be the highest. It's going to be the highest, but there is one that is bigger, the one that you already moved. Did you notice this kind of, the first one here, then here, then here, then here? Every loop is one less. Every loop ends before than the previous one. This can be your solution. We are done. And this solution is going to give you the result that we checked before. The only thing is, there is no reason to compare the 5 and 6 because we already know that they are correct. So we can save that comparison. We can do this a little bit more efficient by doing one small thing. You want each of the loops in black be one less than the previous one. So you want the first one like this, and the second one like this, and the next one like this. All of them start with the 0, but they end in different parts. You can add here something like this. And the first time, the loop is going to finish in the length of the array minus 1, minus 0. And the second time is going to be the length of the array minus 1, minus 1. And the next time is going to be the length of the array minus 1, minus 2. So every time that we repeat this, we finish one before. That is just a fancy thing to make this more efficient. But the solution of the problem that I asked you to help me to solve, the two loops and the condition, the process is this. Start with something and then move to the next step. Solve one problem at a time. Do not try to solve everything used together. You do not need to start with your program here and move down. It's not like you're writing a paper. You can start with the program here, like I did, inside. And you can add code up and down. Just put your ideas on the paper. By the way, this guy, bubble sort, just in case you want to know. Sorting algorithm, bubble sort, this one. Yeah, if you do not put the minus p, it's going to work. The only thing is you are comparing the 5 with the 6, and in some point you are going to be comparing this 3 with this 5 and this 3 with this 6. That it uses more time for the computer, but you already know the answer is these are higher than the 3. You can save time because you do not need to continue the comparison. But if you do not put the minus p, the algorithm use more time to do comparisons that are not needed, but still work. Good. Those are the small things that you learn with the experience. And don't worry, data structure class, 200 level class, you're going to review again, searching, sorting. And in that class, you're going to worry about which one is the best solution in terms of performance, time, and use of resources. I mean, which one use the less amount of memory and the less amount of CPU. Right now, for this class, is use the opportunity to use loops and conditions. Good. Bubble sort. Yes, by the way, we covered sorting. The solution, I give you the script here, so you can copy paste and test it. Hopefully the orange line is clear because it's something that maybe I am going to ask you to do in your exam. Not only give me the source code, but put the instructions in a method that do the things. Just like we did yesterday, a method that maybe receive an array, and in this case, it can be void because what I want to do is to sort the array. I do not need to return anything. I receive the array, and what I am doing is change the data in the same array that I received. So void, static. I put a static use for you to be able to call this method from a main that you can create. That's it. Case 1. Case 2. If I show you this picture and I ask you, can you give me the Java code to create something like this in the memory? What is this? This one is depending on, answering the question in the chat, is depending on the context of the problem that you are solving. It could be private if you are thinking about this one as a helper one. If you are thinking about this one to be part of a library, like yesterday I mentioned this algorithm class with the method for searching, and now I am adding this for sorting. I can make it public, so from the library, other classes can use it. That public, private, is going to depend of what you are doing, the context that you are doing. Usually, except for the helper method, 99% of the time, we create methods public because we want to share our methods with other classes, with other programmers. But if you are doing a particular solution for a particular problem, and for that one, sorting is use a helper method, you can make it private. Yeah. Going here. I agree with the chat. Can you agree with me that this is a picture of an array of objects? Someone can tell me, well, that is the array, but what is this? I hope that you remember that all the arrays have this guy there. That is the reference for the array, exactly. So can you tell me which are the Java instructions that you need to create something like this in the memory of your computer? Just like that, I want the Java instructions to create this in the memory, this picture. And let me tell you that this one is R, the name of the reference. What do I need to do? Well, you want to create R, you need to tell me the type, and maybe you're going to give a value to that. Can you agree with me that basically I'm asking you to complete those two parts of the questions? What is in the left to the variable R, and what do you need in the right side of the equal? Okay, you give me the answer here. What do I need before? If this one is an array, it's an array. And the type. And well, I am giving you objects, remember, the circles. And I don't know which is the class. In your exam, I am going to give you the class. For this one, let's use students. An array of students. And if I do this, an array of students, you know that after the equal is going to be student again, right? We review this. And then how many elements? And just look into the picture. Which number should I put there? 4? Maybe 3? 5? The number of elements that you want, in this case, 4. Okay, that instruction is going to give you the gray boxes. At this point, and I answered this question in the chat before, is if you only give me this instruction, what you have is null, 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 null. You have 4 elements. All the 4 elements are null because null is the default value for an array of references. You'd like 0 is the default value for an array of integers and so on. The next step, if I want to have these things, is for each of the elements, I need to do something. In the position 0, I need to do something. In the position 1, I need to do something. In the position 2, I need to do something. In the position 3, I need to do something. Right? The initialization. Good. Now we are using the fancy names. That something is initialize the elements in the array. Great. Tell me what I need to do. I mean, it's going to be the same in all the lines. What I need to put there to complete my picture. In that point, we call the constructor, right? I need a new. By the way, I need a new there, right? I need the new again for the objects. I need the name of the class again. But now, parentheses, because now I am calling a method. I do not need the size again, but I need the parentheses for the constructor. It could be an empty parentheses, and I call the default constructor, or giving this situation, probably I have a constructor that maybe receive the name and the number, right? So Robert and 4 for the first element, Mary and 1 for the next element, and so on. I mean, again, assuming that we have a constructor. If we do not have the constructor, that could be the case in your exam. Well, the second option is to use the setters, set name, set ID. That only if the variables are private. If the variables are public, we can go directly and access the variable and put in the variables dot value, right? Variables public and private. We did examples. Hopefully you're following me talking about that. If not, review variables public and private, getters and setters, constructors. There are not going to be a particular question about those topics alone, but the question about those topics is going to be embedded in something like this. So it is important, constructors, setters, getters, to string, very important to string. So the picture, and you give me the instructions. Clear? News and news. Don't forget the news. Good? You will be asked to write a program. What is going to be the program depends. For some of you, it's going to be a program with getter, setters, constructor to string, and so on. For others, it's going to be equal to string and the empty constructor. Be prepared for that. There is, as I mentioned before, a pool of questions, different things for each of you. Be prepared for a program that asks you for constructor, setters, getters, to string, equal, and everything that we in one point review and put in an example. Hopefully you remember in one lecture what we did was to practice. I showed you this example with the students, professor, the university, that is on the slides. And in the video, I show you a different one. So you have these two examples using different things. Be sure that you are able to do something similar for your exam. If I show you that line, do we know that that one is this one? Do you remember that 2D array? And what if I want a 3D array? I am sure that you can guess what happened. Okay. Every is a new dimension. Help me with something. I would like to put a number 3 here. What could be the instruction to put that 3 in that particular place? Equal 3, semicolon. And the only thing that I am asking is for you to give me what do I need to put in that line. For sure, I need to use the name of the array, right? And then following the idea is, if it's a 2D array, you need to times this. And then the only thing that I need to complete here, which is the number there and which is the number there. Well, I think these 5 and these 2 are going to solve the problem. The only thing that I need to think about is which one goes first. The coordinates. Something that I want to share with you guys. Usually we think about coordinates, and when we think about coordinates, we think about, you know, X and Y, right? So usually we think about, well, X In this case, my X could be this 2. And then we think about the Y, and well, my Y could be this 5. So usually in terms of coordinates, we could think about 2 and 5. But that is not the case with the arrays. With arrays, with this example, what we do is to think in terms of vectors, matrix, and for programming, very common error, thinking about X and Y, or X, Y, and Z. This is wrong. If you have this array, a 2D array, and yet you need to provide 2 numbers, the first number that you provide is not the X, but the row. So, as you mentioned in the chat, the solution for this, 5 and 2, not 2 and 5, is not like X and Y, is more like rows and columns, matrix. Good? That is the only tricky part that I want to share with you. It's going to be the same not only in Java, but in any language that you review. Vectors, matrix, works in this way. It's not X and Y. So these are the kind of open questions. These are the kind of questions that need more problem-solving skills. Questions that are going to be in your exam. I want to show you some examples, as I mentioned before. Copy paste of one example. Can you answer this question? Remember, it's 5 points. Multiple choice, which line is true? And remember, could be more than one. How do you know that it's out of bound? Now, one of you, some of you, are going to have this question just like this. For some of you, the correct answer is D, just because you remember the meaning of this condition. For some of you. For others, you're going to have the same question with one small change. I delete the equal and create another question. So for some of you, D is the answer. For the others, what could be the answer if I remove the equal? Usually in the classroom, I will tell my students, don't worry about your classmate, because maybe your classmate, the people that you have left or right, have a different exam. In this case, I do not need to tell you that, but use 5 points. Reading some source code, reading some statements, true, which one is true? And is testing your knowledge about theoretical things like out-of-bound exception or null pointer exception or something about arrays. Good. Another one. 5 points. You have a box, this box. You have a program. Tell me what is the output. This is the same code. I mean, this is a screenshot of your exam, and this is the code, the same code, but in the compiler. I just copy the answer that you give me in the chat. I do not know. My goal is you read this with a piece of paper. You can check what is happening, the values for the variables, the operations, what is being printed. As I mentioned before, not enter, so it's one line. And you can figure out the output. It's 5 points, but you can expect a lot of questions like this. So I need to know that without the compiler, you know what is happening in a particular program. Review this, practice with this. I have option A, option B, copy what you are giving me in the chat. The good news is you have the slides, you can copy this in your compiler and check what is the correct answer. In fact, I think I give you the correct answer. I just put here this rectangle covering the correct answer. Another one. Two for loops. I put curly brackets in your exam, don't worry. Can you tell me what is the output? Remember, your exam, you have 1 hour because you have 15 minutes to set up everything, and then you have 60 minutes, 1 hour to complete the exam. More or less 15 to 20 questions. I mean, if all the questions are 5 points, it could be 20, but there are several for 10 points. So it's like 15 questions, 20 questions, depending on the exam that randomly is assigned to you. So you have like 3 minutes per question, something like that. I mean, maybe you want to use more time or save your time for the open questions. So 3 minutes, 4 minutes to tell me the output. I think you can do it. Any idea for this one? I don't know. I am sharing the answer in the chat. Don't worry about the spaces. Again, good news. These questions, the ones that you need to write something and the ones that you need to do programming, are going to be reviewed by the grader and the TA. So a human being is involved in the process. So white spaces, things like that, are going to be checked. Remember, and this happened before, Canvas is going to grade the question, and if you answer the question taking care of the spaces, Canvas is going to put the question like correct. If you add extra spaces or something, what is going to happen is immediately when you finish your exam, maybe Canvas is going to tell you that is wrong. I mean, you're going to notice your grade like low, but later the grader and the TA take care of reviewing everything. So my advice, be careful with the spaces, but you are not going to lose point for that. I mean, worst case scenario, your grade is going to be low for a couple of days and then it's going to be fixed by human beings. option A, option B. You can copy paste this and you can learn the correct answer. Obviously, memorization is useless here. What I am asking you to do is to understand why maybe this is the answer, why maybe this is the answer, or why maybe something completely different is the answer. Practice the process. Be sure that you understand what is happening and how the things are happening. Play with a piece of paper and put the values, move the values, delete the values, things like what we did here in several cases with several examples. Good. So the last one, this one is 10 points. I am sure that you can figure out the different things here, but used to create the structure. I am asking for a method. I am going to do it public. I don't really care about this part. What I care is static if you want or not. We don't care. Something there, and I care about the something there. Something here, inside of the parentheses. So, can you help me to fill in the blanks, those two? This method is going to return something. What? Okay. Why? That is what I am asking here. What about the parameters? You help me. An array of strings. That is what I am asking here. An array of strings. The name could be whatever you want. You can use args, num, whatever. And I am asking about other things here. So looks like I need a comma and it's a number. This is the beginning. This is the first thing that the graders are going to review. The first line and the last line, that you understand the concept. Obviously, also, I want you to put something inside, right? I mean, to solve the problem. But at least this could give you some credits. Yes, I like that idea. I am asking here for a loop, and then I am asking you to use the plus with the strings, which mean concatenation. Okay, this is the idea. You have the tools. We review in 8 weeks, different tools, different ideas, concatenation, loops, if, conditions, public, private. Now, after 8 weeks, you know how to use those tools, and you know how to solve these kind of problems. I am going to ask you to do this in your exam. But most important, you're going to need this in the future with other classes. So I am going to stop here. Thank you for listening the lectures. Thank you for the 8 weeks. Any question? Yeah, this was assignment 5. Okay, guys, so good luck tomorrow with your exam and good luck with your future courses and see you around. Thank you. Bye.